It started with a scream that never reached the air. No one in Omuikoro village heard it, not even the night birds that usually caught every whisper of wind. But F knew. She had heard it in her bones. Something terrible had happened in that house beside the old Iroko tree. That night, the moon hid its face behind a thick veil of clouds. Thunder growled far away, threatening to crawl closer. Omuikoro slept like it always did, peaceful, quiet, and surrounded by stories the elders said were too old to disturb. But some stories don't wait for you to disturb them. They rise when they are ready. F had passed by the house on her way from the stream. The abandoned house with broken windows, its roof bowed like it was mourning. Nobody went near it. Not since the burial. That burial. Her name was Ojie. A girl of fire, they used to say. Beautiful, too bold for a woman, too smart for her own good. They buried her 6 months ago. Quickly. Quietly. No funeral songs. No talking drums. No mourners weeping in white. Just silence. Her mother had not spoken since then. Her father left the village a week later. Some said he ran. Others said he ran. Others said he knew what was coming. F stopped near the gate. It was cold, unnaturally cold. She was sure she saw a shadow move behind the broken window. Then she heard it. Not a scream. Not exactly. It was like a cry muffled under earth. Like someone was trying to speak from beneath the soil. And then it stopped. F ran. The next morning, chickens refused to cross the front of that house. The sun refused to shine fully on it. Even the breeze gave it space. Mama Ojie, the mother of the dead girl, sat on her stool facing the forest. She had not blinked in hours. Mama, do you want food? F asked, holding a calabash of yam porridge. The old woman didn't respond. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. F placed the food on the ground and sat beside her. She watched the trees. She listened to the silence. After some minutes, she heard it again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Coming from the ground. From under them. The woman's eyes rolled back, and her body jerked once. She's coming, Mama Ojie whispered. She's not sleeping. 6 months earlier, Ojie had been the brightest girl in the village. She wore her hair in thick braids, her eyes always shining with questions. She didn't fear anything, not spirits, not men, not rules. She wanted to be a healer, like the old ones. But the elders refused. A woman should not know too much, they warned. It brings bad spirits. But Ojie didn't listen. She spent her nights learning herbs, speaking to the wind, dancing under the moon. Until one day, she went into the sacred forest alone. Only the chief and the priest were allowed there. It was the home of Okufa, the sleeping spirit. Ojie returned with a red feather in her hand and blood on her feet. That night, the chief called a meeting. She has opened a door that was never meant to be opened, the chief said. If we do not close it, the spirit will not rest. She's just a girl, her mother cried. Please, she meant no harm. She must be buried, the priest said. Not punished. Buried. Ojie was alive when they placed her in the coffin. They used charms to freeze her body. She could not move, could not scream. They buried her before the rooster crowed. Back to present day. The scratching got louder. F couldn't sleep. She heard it in her room. Behind the walls. Under the floor. Her mother said it was rats. But rats don't whisper your name at midnight. That night, F dreamed of a girl walking barefoot on dry leaves. Her face was pale, her fingers black with soil. Her mouth didn't move, but F heard her clearly. They buried me alive. I watched the sky fade. I I heard them dance while I died. F woke up screaming. Her bedsheet was damp with sweat and soil. The whispering begins. By the fourth day, strange things started happening in the village. The stream turned dark and bitter. The goats refused to eat. Children cried in their sleep and pointed toward the old house. Then the dream spread. Others began to see the girl. In corners. In mirrors. In the spaces between heartbeats. She wants something, the priest said, his hands shaking. She wants justice. But she is dead, the chief shouted. We gave her peace. No, F said. You gave her silence. Not peace. That night, a fire started in the old house. But no one lit it. Flames danced without consuming the wood. And in the smoke, a face formed. A face covered in dirt. Her eyes were open now. Watching. The bones in the drum. Old Baba Onyu, the drummer, came forward the next day. He was the one who beat the sacred drum during burials. But he had not drummed for Ojie. She didn't want the silence, he said. Her spirit never crossed. She lingers between. Then let us rebury her, the chief said. But Baba Onyu shook his head. Her bones are not at rest. She does not want reburial. She wants the truth. F gathered a group of youths. She needed to know what really happened that night. They dug up the grave. The coffin was empty. No bones. No cloth. Just red feathers and dried blood. That night, F's reflection moved before her. She was not buried, the reflection said in Ojie's voice. She was sacrificed. And now she wants all who need to pay. The rain came without warning. It poured like something angry. The kind of rain that drowned out sound, erased footprints, and made people lock their doors early. But no one in Omuikoro slept that night. Not even the infants. Because the rain was not just water. It whispered. I am still here. You watched them do it. You said nothing. It spoke in the wind, in the crackle of thunder, in the voice of their own guilt. And somewhere beneath the rain, in the ruined house near the Iroko tree, something moved. The empty coffin. They had dug the grave. Found it hollow. No bones. No body. Just red feathers. And blood. F couldn't stop shaking. She stared at the items in the coffin as the rain fell harder around them. This isn't burial, she whispered. This is a ritual. Odiu, one of the village youths, spat to the side. We shouldn't be here. But we are, F said, her voice stronger than she felt. And we need to find out why. Baba Onyu, the old drummer, was the last to leave the gravesite. He picked up a red feather and tucked it behind his ear. They used her to wake something, he muttered. But she didn't sleep back. What the priest hid. At dawn, they went to confront the priest. The village priest, Apaguma, was a man feared by many. He spoke little, but when he did, his voice filled the room. Now, he looked like a shadow of himself, thin, sweating, lips cracked. He knew they would come. She would have cursed the land if we hadn't done it, he said before they even asked. You lied to everyone, F accused. You said she was buried because she broke the sacred law. But it was a lie, wasn't it? The priest sighed deeply. She went into the forest and found it. The feather. She brought it back, thinking it was just a sign of beauty. But it was the mark of Idu, the forgotten god. Odiu frowned. There are only 7 gods. There were 8, the priest said. Idu was the 8th. The god of vengeance and broken silence. The others buried him in stories, made us forget. But Ojie remembered. He looked at them, his eyes red and wet. She woke him. And we needed to silence her before she could speak the words. You murdered her, F said. No, the priest said, almost smiling. We offered her. And she accepted. The visitor. That evening, Mama Ojie spoke for the first time in 6 months. The sky was still weeping. The clouds didn't rest. But the woman who hadn't said a word since her daughter died opened her mouth and sang. It wasn't a human song. Her voice was low, raw, torn by grief and fire. She sang in a language nobody had heard before. And when she finished, she pointed at F. She is the only one who can bring her back. Then she collapsed. That night, Ojie came. F was asleep, or thought she was. The door to her hut creaked open. Rain did not fall outside, only inside. Ojie stood near the wall. Hair soaked in blood. Eyes pale. Lips sewn shut with black thread. But her voice spoke in F's mind. They took my body to the shrine under the Iroko. My bones are there. They chanted over them. They said silence was safety. But silence is a scream that never ends. Free me. F tried to move. She couldn't. Find the drummer. He knows the rhythm that breaks the spell. When she woke, her bed was soaked, not with water, but with muddy footprints. Leading from her door to her pillow. The shrine beneath the Iroko. There was an old tale that under the Iroko tree lived a shrine with no name. Only those who had committed blood rituals could enter it. Others would die before reaching the root. F and Ojie stood before the tree. Baba Onu came too, holding his carved drum. He wore a red cloth and no shoes. She won't sleep until her spirit is released, Baba Onu said. And the spirit won't leave unless it hears the rhythm of truth. What does that mean? Ojie asked. The old man smiled faintly. We have to drum the story. As it really happened. The entrance to the underground shrine revealed itself when F pressed the red feather to the tree's bark. A rumble shook the earth, and a narrow passage opened. They descended in silence, the drum cradled in Baba Onu's arms. The shrine smelled of ash and bones. Carvings of faceless figures filled the walls. At the center lay a bundle of white cloth, soaked in old blood. Ojie's body. Her hands still clenched. Her lips still sewn shut. The moment they stepped inside, the air turned heavy. Ojie fell to his knees, coughing. F reached for the cloth. The spirit surged. All the lanterns went out. Then Baba Onu began to drum. The rhythm of truth. Each beat echoed like thunder. Bodom, biedom, bieda, biedom. Not a song, not a dance rhythm, this was a story. He drummed the night Ojie was born. He drummed her laughter, her learning, her rebellion. He drummed the moment the elders grew afraid. He drummed the night they tricked her. He drummed her silence. And then, he drummed the scream she never got to make. The shrine trembled. The blood on the cloth began to smoke. F tore the black thread from Ojie's lips. A scream filled the cave. Louder than thunder. Deeper than drums. Sharper than lightning. It wasn't pain. It was release. Ojie's eyes opened. But this time, not in rage. In peace. She looked at F. Thank you. Then she faded. Gently. Her bones crumbled into dust. The shrine shook once more, and then was gone. What followed? The rain stopped. The next day, the river ran clear again. The goats returned to the field. Mama Ojie rose and walked to the stream, singing gently. No one dreamed of the pale girl again. The village tried to move on. But something had changed. F became a healer. The first woman allowed to do so in 3 generations. They no longer feared her knowledge. Because they remembered Ojie. Because they knew silence is not always safe. Because sometimes, the dead have more to say than the living. Peace returned to Omuikoro. Or so they believed. The rain had stopped. The river flowed sweet again. The children laughed without shadows hiding behind their voices. The Iroko tree stood still, no longer whispering when the wind passed through. Ojie was gone. Her spirit freed. Her name spoken with respect, not fear. But peace is not always what it seems. Especially in a place where silence had been used to bury the truth. And every promise, every single one, must be paid. The drum that wouldn't stop. 2 weeks after the shrine vanished, Baba Onu died in his sleep. But that wasn't what frightened the village. It was the drum. The one he used to free Ojie. It played by itself at night. Low, steady, mournful beats. Bodom, biedom, biedom. Children heard it in their dreams. Women heard it while washing at the stream. Men heard it deep in the forest while hunting. And all of them heard the same words between the beats. One life freed. Another must pay. F's burden. F had become a healer. People came to her with sicknesses that had no name. She cured many with herbs, prayer, and touch. But her hands had changed. She began to feel things others could not. When she touched the sick, she saw flashes of their past. When she walked past the dead, she could hear their last thoughts. It started small. A whisper here. A sob there. But soon, the voices crowded her sleep. We watched. We kept quiet. She wasn't the only one. F begged the gods to silence them. They didn't. Because it wasn't their voices. It was the price of the promise. The priest's confession. Priest Akpoguma grew thinner each day. His eyes turned yellow. His skin peeled. The villagers avoided him. Even goats turned away from his footsteps. One day, he appeared at F's doorstep. His feet were bare. His hands bled from long scratches. He carried a clay bowl filled with ash. I did not tell you everything, he said. F stared at him, silent. Ojie wasn't the only girl we offered. The bowl slipped from his hands and shattered on the floor. There were others. He held up a string of red feathers, old, dusty, faded with time. 6 girls before her. All buried under silence. F's stomach turned. You told us Ojie was the reason, she said. She was the last, he whispered. The one who refused to be quiet. And then he fell. Dead before he hit the ground. Names of the forgotten. That night, F stood before the Iroko tree. She laid the red feathers on the soil and poured water from the stream. The wind howled. The leaves didn't move. And then they came. 6 girls. Their eyes hollow. Their hands stretched out. Their lips sewn shut with thick black thread. But their voices rang inside F's head like thunder. He lied. They chose us. Our families gave us. For rain. For health. For power. F knelt. Tears ran down her face. I will tell your stories, she swore. You will not be forgotten. Then one of the girls, tall, with a scar over her eye, reached out and touched F's forehead. Telling is not enough. You must remember for us. You must carry us. Marked. The next morning, F's hair turned grey. Not fully. Just a single streak, from the middle of her scalp down to her left eye. A mark. She touched it, and 1,000 voices echoed in her mind. Each one a girl lost to silence. Each one buried under shame, secrets, and sacrifice. From that day on, F began to speak for them. She would go from village to village, gathering names. Asking questions. Digging up stories. At first, people refused to speak. But then, strange things began to happen in the places where truth was hidden. Streams would dry overnight. Birds would fall dead from the sky. Mirrors would crack on their own. Drums would play in the distance, low and steady. Bodom, biedom, biedom. And finally, the silence would break. What truth costs? In one village, she uncovered a well filled with bones. In another, a priest who had taken tongues as offerings. In a third, a tree that grew only from the burial ground of unborn girls. Each time, the truth came out. And each time, the land healed, but not without a price. In one case, a chief went mad. In another, an entire river changed direction. In every case, F bore the burden. Her face grew older. Her eyes saw beyond the living. And the girls followed her, unseen but felt. She became known as F the Grey-Eyed. Some called her a witch. Others called her a prophet. But all called her one thing. The Rememberer. The final drum. Years passed. F returned to Omuikoro, old and tired. The Iroko tree still stood, taller than ever. At its root sat a new girl, barefoot, bright-eyed, holding a red feather. You see them too? F asked. The girl nodded. They speak to me. All of them. F smiled softly. Then it's time. She gave the girl her satchel, her staff, her story. And then she walked into the forest. The drums began one final time. Bodom, biedom, biedom. The sound grew fainter, until it became silence. But this time, the silence was not fear. It was rest. Epilogue, the spirit that watches. Now, when the wind passes through certain trees, people say you can hear soft voices. She remembered us. She gave us our names back. We are not lost anymore. And when a girl finds a red feather, she knows what it means. That her voice matters. That silence is not safety. And that even if the world buries her story, her spirit will never sleep.